You wrote a scathing review about
I
Ghostbusters.
thought it was quite measured. It's just that everybody else was lying that they liked the movie when nobody really did.
And then what happened?
So I exchanged some words with Leslie Jones, one of the leads, who I was unimpressed with. Like, I was unimpressed with all of them. I cracked some jokes. I was mean and bitchy, like I always am. And if I crack a few jokes at a Hollywood megastar's expense, so what?
So I printed out a couple of those. Just to
Go
see.
right ahead.
Okay, so
I posted them. I'm sure I'm
Right.
fine.
So
Yeah, I said the women in it were fat and ugly and fat, and they are, and I'll tell you why I find this problematic. We've started to marginalize traditional beauty standards, you know. Now what we're expected to do is to celebrate body positivity and you know, that it's okay to abuse their bodies, to run the risk of horrible diseases and awful chronic conditions and to die sooner. That's horrible. What I'm trying to do is draw attention to a critique of what's happening in mainstream beauty culture, and that comes from compassion about what the messages we're sending to young girls.
So is that compassionate though, saying they're fat, ugly?
The piece comes from compassion. I mean, this is just a little bitchy tweet. Who cares?
Okay, so according to Jack Dorsey, though, the tweets that followed after your review of Ghostbusters, it was just too much.
There's no question that some of the things that were sent to her were horrible, but I'm not in the business of policing the 300 million people on Twitter. Now, I'm not going to endorse anything horrible that people said to her. Obviously, there were some things that were said to her that were disgusting, right? But I'm not in the business of language policing other people. I'm only responsible for what I say. And the things that you have presented to me, I'm perfectly happy to, I would say them again tomorrow.
What would you say to Leslie Jones right now if you had an opportunity to sit with her, now that kind of the dust has settled a little bit? What would you say to her?
I would say to her, you are a star of a Hollywood blockbuster. What are you doing sitting at home on your iPhone getting upset about idiots posting nonsense stuff on the internet? That's insane to me.
So there's a bit of irony in this. I'm thinking about this 2012 op-ed that you wrote that I'm sure you've heard about.
Yes, you all have the same research as you guys, because you all share
I mean, it
research.
stuck out like come on, it was like a red flag. You wrote, the internet distances us from others and feeds the traits of sociopathy, saying perhaps what's needed now is a bolder form of censure after all. If people cannot be trusted to treat one another with respect, dignity, and consideration. You wrote that.
I did. I think it's fair to say my feelings have evolved on that subject.
And how did they evolve?
Well, I think 4 years of being on Twitter and being on Facebook and watching how these companies operate, but also realizing that you know, the trolls often aren't the bad guys. Often the trolls are the only ones telling the truth.
What about an apology for maybe what your followers, because what Twitter,
Absolutely not.
how Twitter sees it is that you sort of move that kind of momentum that
Well, I'm sorry for being popular. They need new ways of making sure that people who don't want to hear from each other don't really hear from each other. My purpose is to lob bombs. My purpose is to be a fire starter, right? In an outrage culture, I think the appropriate response is to be outrageous, because what I want to do is smash political correctness. I don't want everyone to be like me, but I think it's important that there are some people like me.
your tweets offended people. They just did. What do you say to those? What do you say to those people? I mean, it's the offensive comments that were made.
Yes, I say good. Good. If I offended you, that's me performing my function. And you should grow thicker skin and grow up. And so long as there are people who think that offense taking and you know, having grievances is equivalent to some genuine kind of injury, I'm still necessary. You may disagree with me, that's fine, come debate me. But so long as there is a politics in this country, as there is, where people can turn victimhood and grievance into currency, I will continue to be as offensive as possible.